Hey, what's up everybody? Prospector here with Watcher Realms. As you may have heard, there is a buff coming to Init, and he's going to be able to apply a damage reduction debuff to the target. But the question is, will he become the new meta? Will he be able to keep that damage reduction on consistently? That's what I'm here to find out. So without further ado, let's dig in. Right, Init. So Init is a little bit of, or has been a little bit of a disappointment for a lot of people. It takes a long time to get him, and he's not super useful. He's okay, but he's not super useful. Now, is he still going to be useful? Because one of the issues is that he's going to be most useful in a meta team, so you're going to be wanting to run him with Praetus. If you don't have Praetus as a lord, he still may not be the hero that you choose to run. Now, what is changing? Well, the only thing that's really changing is going to be his basic attack here. This one right here deals 120% magic damage to one enemy and inflicts damage reduction. Damage minus 30%. This is the same as Volca. This is the same as Alistair. Volca does this super consistently, especially if you have her exclusive artifact. And Alistair does this a little less consistently, but he does a lot of damage. But Init is bringing other stuff to the team. And now he can also bring in damage reduction, which is going to be game changing. I'm certain this is going to change the meta. He's definitely going to be in all the top teams after this buff. I can guarantee it. Now, what else is he bringing? So when deployed, immediately assigns an ancient core to up to 4 allied units within the skill range to assist each of them. An ancient core autonomously attacks an enemy in range. That's whoever has the ancient core on them. That hero's range is what it's going to use for as far as whether or not it's in range or not, dealing damage equal to 25% of Init's attack per second. So right there, that's going to tell you that you're going to want to do Init with really high attack, so you're going to build them very similar to Alistair. And then after that, assigns an ancient core to 2 allied units every 8 seconds. Each ancient core lasts for 20 seconds. Now, where does this ancient core, or what is his range? So his range is, as the ultimate shows, this big square. He can apply these ancient cores to anybody that's within this huge square that's around him. So that means the tile that he's on, 2 squares over, 2 squares up, 2 squares back, 2 squares to the other side. So you could basically put him typically where you like to put Alistair, and he's going to be able to apply to them the ancient cores to anybody that really matters. Now, he should be able to keep this damage reduction on up full time. We're going to test that in just a minute. On Shackles of Grace, when attacking, an ancient core has a 20% chance to deal an extra true damage equal to 30% attack one time and heal the assigned ally for 20% of the true damage dealt. So he's going to be applying a little bit of heals too, as well as just for some extra utility in the Guild Boss 2 fight. It's going to be huge, and he's also doing that true damage. So if you're struggling with the Aegis phase, he's going to do true damage there, just kind of like Alistair, and he's going to be able to help you take down that phase. Now on the Underworld of Command, this is the last passive here. Each ancient core assigned upon Init's deployment grants damage increase. So the first time you put him on the field, he's going to assign ancient cores, and he's going to apply a 30% damage increase. But after that, when he applies the ancient cores throughout the rest of the fight, they're only going to be getting a 15% damage increase. But it's still a 15% damage increase. So a lot of the heroes in the game right now that we're using for Guild Boss 2 are doing immense amount of damage. So if you can keep these ancient cores up on them and they land on the right heroes at the right time, 15% can equate to a lot. A lot. You know, look at Kagiri, 15%. He's doing over $1 billion on a lot of teams. 15% is going to be another 150 million coming out of him. So it's not going to equate to that kind of level because it's going to be RNG of who it lands on and who has these ancient cores on them all the time. But it's still much more utility than Alistair is bringing. In my opinion, he's going to have the heals, he's going to be offering the damage increases, he's going to be doing true damage, and now he's going to be adding that damage reduction. So before he had this damage reduction, Alistair was always going to be the go-to guy. So let's go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is just run him in Guild Boss, and I want to see how well he actually does keeping these buffs up. So we only need to go on like normal, need to keep a healer on him, and that's just going to be about it. We're not going to be focused on doing anything else besides keeping him alive and just kind of seeing if the buff falls off. And we may have to adjust his attack a little bit, but we will find out in a minute. So make sure that it's going to be the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and put him down. I need to put some gear on him quick. He is A1. You are capable of unlocking A1. Anybody is. So keep that in mind as well. See, we'll just put Alistair's gear on him. Alistair does not have attack speed. I don't think anyways. Oh, he does. He has an attack speed weapon on him. I want to change that over to just a crit rate, crit damage, attacks bonus. Because I want to see if he can do it with full just damage pieces. Instead of having to be restricted to having an attack speed weapon or breastplate. So you're going to be coming in at 19.5k attacks, nice and high, 1.5 second attack interval, and I think the attack speed is 373 and then 293 crit damage. He does have a lot of priority on attack speed here throughout his build because that's the way I've set it up to be. I probably will fix one of those pieces before we actually go into a fight. What his artifact is added to your Twilight, it's perfect. Alright, so let's go into the fight and see if he can't keep that crit damage reduction, or see if he can't keep that damage reduction up on the boss full time. Sometimes with Alistair, if he's not quite fast enough, it will fall off and it can wreck your runs. A lot of the times it likes to fall off right when he's about to hit you too. Now, there is something I do have to point out that is kind of interesting, that is going to make him a little less appealing, but it's still, I think he's still going to end up being the best here. Oops, I put him in the wrong spot. Sorry about that. Range is a little weird. I forget that that range only applies to the ultimate. Alright, so there's his actual range. That's where he can apply all of these, what do you call them, ancient cores. Okay, so the attack down is up. Debuff is landing pretty well. It seems to be standing right here. And he seems to be keeping this up really well. Just about fell off there though. So you could say, if you ask me, he's going to have a little bit of easier time even keeping this up than Alistair. This is a little more consistent. I typically run attack speed, crit rate, attack bonus on the left side with Alistair. But the interesting part here is going to be... No, he's going to go into his shield right now? I don't even know. Okay, so the interesting part is, now watch what happens. Activate his ultimate. Okay, so it worked. So the first time I tested this, and you activated his ultimate, it actually did not apply the damage down. So it looks like it actually does. So during his ultimate and during his basic attack, he's going to be consistently applying that damage reduction. Kind of surprising. I swear it didn't do it before. It's kind of, it is tight, but it seems to be really consistent. It seems to be really consistent. Let's go ahead and get out of the fight. You can see I'm going to run him with crit rate, crit damage, and attack bonus on both pieces. And then Alistair, I'm going to run him with that as well. Just to try to get a really fair comparison. I think I should be able to hold the fight going, even if the buff falls off temporarily or debuff falls off temporarily. But they will be using the same gear as well. And that's why I want to do it that way. Okay. Oh, this is not the team we're going to be using here. 1 second while I get this all coordinated. Be right back, 1 sec. Alright, sorry about that. I left the fight before and it kind of erased my team. So anyways, this is the team I'm going to be using. They're all really well geared. A lot of them are Awakened 5, including Alistair here at A5. It's completely unrealistic to be running an A5 Alistair, especially versus a A0 or A1 Init. But this is what we're going to end up doing just for the testing. I think it's going to be showing some interesting results. To record all of the heroes' damage because he's going to be boosting their damage as well. So the goal I'm going to be going for is going to be hitting 60k mech fragments on the boss. And as soon as we hit that 60k, I'm going to start pulling units off, and then hopefully, I mean, we'll keep it within range the best I can, and we'll compare the damage numbers at the end of the 60k. So you're not going to get like a full-on, in this video anyways, a full-on, oh, this is how much damage they're going to be able to do with Init. This is just going to be at 60k, so it's going to be a little bit of a limit on what we're going to see here. Keep the video short enough. We'll start with Alistair. Get it up to 60k. And I will see you at the end of this run for the results. Alright, so we're coming up to 60k here. Maybe I'll just go to... Yeah, we'll just stay at 60k. That's gonna be the goal, guys. That's gonna be the goal. We'll go shoot for 60k. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click. Alright, you could have activated there, but that's alright. Kind of playing it like I would normally. I would just kind of hold at this point still until we get closer down to the bottom side of this boss and then use it on the vulnerabilities if I can. That is the idea anyways. Okay. Looks like we'll just finished up. Yeah, we'll just do Advanced Evolution 2. Phase 2 Aegis Shield. That's what we're gonna shoot for, I think. We'll finish off just like I normally would. And as soon as the Titan's Drake comes up, that's when I'm gonna pull all the units. As soon as I can. Alright, so here we go. Now 62.9k damage. Start pulling everybody off. Alistair did a fine job keeping that damage reduction up. Here we go, last unit. 63.264. I'm gonna record that on Notepad. Got 63.264 total at AE 2-2 end of vulnerabilities. Taking notes to make sure I don't make a mess up or anything. And then let's see the results here. I'm not going to save because that would ruin the whole test. Alright, so I'm going to take the results, I'm going to note them, and I'll be right back in a moment. One sec. Alright, so I have Kagiri written down as 204, Lust is 121, we have Praetus down as 114, and I have Twyla down as 112, and Alistair down as 76. Remember, we only went to 60k, so this damage could be much higher. If you go all the way up to 120k, you'd be looking at a 400 Kagiri. You could just pretty much just double everything, and then some. Some of these heroes could probably be doing a lot better, especially later on when I start using them more often during the Aegis shields and stuff. So like Twyla and Praetus and Alistair will be activated much more consistently later on in the fight versus early on where I'm using their ultimates in between the vulnerability stages. So that's something to keep in mind. A team this strong can go without really doing many ults and just having Kagiri kind of carry the team up until like Advanced Evolution 3. So you're looking at 80k to 100k before we start seeing everybody else using their ultimates. But that isn't really the point. We want to see the damage differences between having Alistair and having Init. And can Init do a good enough job with Alistair or without Alistair being on a team and still maintain that kind of damage? I remember Alistair did about 76. That's why I recorded everybody's damage numbers. That way we could see for sure if Alistair is going to do so much more damage than Init just off of his own attacks, while Init is also boosting everybody else's attacks. We had a total mech down of 63.264. We'll see what happens with Init. So all I had to do is pull off Alistair. We're using the same gear. It's gonna be on the same Lord right under Praetus. It's really convenient. The only issue I have with this whole thing is that, yeah, it's exciting and it can do the job, and he will do a good job without Praetus. Just like if you didn't have a Praetus before, you could use Alistair without Praetus. So, I mean, it's not really a huge deal in my mind. If we go to Alistair, he is a Watcher though, so you could actually sub in instead of Praetus, you could run Leia. And Leia would support Constance and Alistair. But without Praetus, you can't support Init. So it's kind of like a Praetus meta team. That's going to be kind of your main goal here, main focus. Alright, so we're going to go into the fight the same way as before. I'm going to show you this one because I ended up figuring it out. I had to restart the fight a couple times to make sure. I wanted to make sure that Alistair was within Constance range. And I want to make sure that Init is also in Constance range. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put Kagiri up here. We are going to put down Carnelian. And then I'm going to go ahead and put down Twyla. And then we're going to put down Constance right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put down Kratos, followed by Elowen. Need to get down Lust, followed by Fercy. And no, Alistair did not have an invigoration buff in the last fight either. So, the only ones that are not going to get these, which is perfect, the only ones not going to get his Ancient Cores are going to be Torador and Carnelian, and they don't really need it. So, that's kind of ideal. You want to lessen the odds of having heroes that aren't doing damage getting the Ancient Cores versus the ones that are. So, that's perfect. Can't imagine it any better. Jump to Giri. Of course, to be doing a ton of damage. Activate Twyla. Always do. And then I'm going to take it from here, and I'm going to see you at the end of the fight for the results, and we'll go over what we get. Alright, so we're coming up. We're at 54,000. I do have some very interesting takes on this. Typically, I like to wait until each phase is done before I start activating a bunch of alts. On the first one, I always activate Twyla, and I always activate Kagiri. But the first Advanced Evolution, so Advanced Evolution 0, I went through that so fast that I couldn't even get back to my alts fast enough to activate them during the vulnerability state. So that's something to keep in mind. It definitely has increased everybody's damage, like a lot. So very impressive. Definitely curious to see what the actual results show at the end of this fight here. It's the same spot though. We're at Advanced Evolution 2, right around 55.7k. Last time I went through the boss all the way after the vulnerable state and then attacked him, of course. And then as soon as the Titan's Drake came up, I started the fight up again. Or I ended the fight. Go ahead and use Carnelian. Not that it really matters. We're just going to get the end of this phase. Per usual, 57.5. See, we're gonna hit that 60k much earlier, I think anyways. We're gonna go through this phase. I'm gonna attack with everybody's ults in a vulnerable state, end it as soon as the Titan's Drake comes up. Activating that a lot earlier than I should be. Here it comes. Alright, so I'm gonna get everybody going. Just like before. See where we end up at the end of this phase here. 53.5. Start pulling everybody off now. Just like before. End the fight. 64.183. I'm gonna pull up my little cheat sheet here. my memory logs. Alright, so we ended up with an extra 1,000 total mech fragments, so that's good. So we managed to keep things pretty similar. Hit do not save. Go into the stats and let's see what happens here. 217 out of Kagiri before it was 204. Lust hitting 125 before it was 121. Kratos hitting 115 before it was 114. Twyla at 109 before it was 112. I think it has to do with hitting in between the vulnerable state and not hitting in there. We have Alistair at 76, and then we have Init here at 70.5 million. So it's very interesting how things play out. I do think that Alistair is obviously a really good option, but Init is free. I think he's going to eventually fall into the main meta comps. Like I said before, he's a little bit easier to get. You're probably going to see a lot more of him. He did a fine job keeping that damage reduction up, like I kind of expected was going to happen. It's a very, very nice addition to Init. It's going to be super useful, doing about the same kind of thing as Alistair is doing. The damage is even very close, so it's 70.5 to 76, and that could be the difference between, you know, using him right or not using him right. A little bit of RNG, who knows. His ult is kind of weird. So, but I do just want to reiterate that I could feel the difference as I was playing the fight. I could feel the difference in speed as we were taking down these enemies. The damage was just through the roof compared. But we do stop at like 60k, like I said, so it just kind of ends up being the same. It really is going to show more later on in the later stages of the AE6, AE7 of the Aegis phase in order to really see just how well of a difference he's making. But very comparable, very good now. Definitely a meta hero. He just went up to S tier, guaranteed he went up to S tier. If you think Alistair is S tier, now Init is S tier. Worth sinking your soul stones into? Let's take a look. On the Awakened 1, he when deployed assigns Ancient Core to one more ally. So, I mean, it just gets one extra for A1. On the Awakened 2, he gets attack plus 5%. That's a 5% onto his base. So before the gear takes effect, this is going to add it onto his base. It's going to be huge. Awakened level 3 is when assigning Ancient Core to allies, also assigns one to the hero himself. So then he's going to be doing Ancient Core damage as well and getting the damage increase. Awakened 4, Rage Regen Auto plus 1, which is nice. Awakened 5, Ancient Core has a 33% chance of reviving after the ultimate. So he can just kind of, when he uses his ults, uses up his Ancient Cores, and they have a chance of just coming back immediately. Now, the one and final note that I have to leave you with here is that this Init is Awakened level 1. How many of you guys have Awakened level 5 Alistair to compare to? Not many. Not many. I don't even think most of the top end teams are running Awakened 5 Alistair. This is very rare and he's very hard to get. I've only gotten him from the fusion myself, and I pulled plenty of ancients on the global server. But he gets full talent stacks. Base attack has a 15% chance of inflicting 1 stack of radiant erosion. Attack plus 300. Awakened 3, Trembling Shatter inflicts. Awakened level 3, Trembling Shatter inflicts vulnerability and magic damage, which is going to also increase everybody else's damage as well. Awakened 4 is Rage Regen Auto plus 1. Awakened 5 is there's a 50% chance to restore half of the rage cap upon casting Downlight. So he can just be coming back to his ultimate much more often. There's not going to be many of you out there using Alistair at Awakened level 5, but you have to consider we had Init at 70 million, and we had Alistair at 76, and Init is only Awakened level 1. So, taking that into consideration, I do think that Init is going to be the #1 meta. For the final time, Init is now a triple S hero. That's where we're going to put him. Besides the fact that he's way cooler looking than Alistair, and it's about time that we had a good reason to be using this hero in the game. I can't wait for him to get his buff, and hopefully someday get myself a Kratos. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you join the Discord. hero guides, stage guides, takeovers, price guides, everything you need in there, right on the Discord server, and a good community as well. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep digging.